They wondered if they maintained their speed at this speed, would they be able to get there in an instant, and when they arrived on the second floor, they then captured and forced Clebius, who was the boss of the second floor, and tried to escape from there to join them. When they reached the third floor, they were again blocked by someone. Now it was Maid Kelly who was blocking them, but without her twin sister, Sheenie, she was no match for Taylor's group. She could only apologize to Alice because she could not complete the task she had assigned to her, of course. Taylor's group never thought about why the twin maid who was always together was blocking them alone. Things went smoother than expected, and they arrived at the fourth floor of the Wifus Hall as planned. They thought like this, because the difficulty was too high on the first floor. They were then suddenly startled by a scream, and a group of students then rushed to run together away from the direction that Taylor's group wanted to go. Behind them, there was Will Rain, who was now dominated by protection magic. He couldn't bear this and could only scream for help. Placing the crystal ball that triggers the magic circle control system in the control room's dead center for everyone. TOC was Alice and Lortel's scheme. The protection magic attached to the entire Wifus Hall building was originally designed to protect the students from outside intruders, but the current scene, it's just like a child holding a gun filled with live bullets. Taylor's group also looks overwhelmed in repelling the Wilrain's blind attack. The rainy weather added to the gloom of the now chaotic appearance of Wifus Hall, and the building suddenly shook violently due to the events that were now happening on the fourth floor. The students trapped in Wifus Hall could only feel panic and wonder what was happening outside. They were even worried that the building would collapse if it continued like this. They were also confused about where the maids were, and what they were doing, different from the group of students. The Wifus Hall students who managed to maintain their calm, began to escape in various ways using the abilities they had, amidst the noise of breaking windows. The situation slowly turned into a catastrophe, and Taylor's group then racked their brains to resolve the chaotic situation. Taylor then asked Elvira if she had any night butterfly reagent left. Hearing that, Elvira then explained that the night butterfly reagent was only able to disrupt a mage's magic control, so it was ineffective against the magic circle that was attached like that, in a cramped place like this. There is a better reagent. Elvira then took out the reagent, the Devil's Snare reagent, a potion made by melting Devil's Snare seeds with Emperor Shellfish shells. After that, she then poured it forward. This reagent will block all the basic magic in this corridor. All of this is just additional magic. There is a lot, but she can handle this, so she asked them not to worry, then told the two of them to beat Will Rain together. Right after Elvira said that, the two of them then together came forward with Clebius, who felt like crying and asked why should he. Seeing the two people who came forward towards him, Will Rain still continued to attack blindly because he could not control the power. His attacks, which although many but could be avoided by the two of them because the attack was completely without direction at all, and Will Rain suddenly cried happily. He mumbled a little, finally, and a very powerful explosion suddenly occurred, which hit the entire upper floor of the Wifus Hall. The explosion instantly lit up the night sky outside the Wifus Hall. Ed also saw the explosion while watching the Elk family carriage. Janica, who saw it, then asked what he was doing here. She was worried that if he moved too much, his wound would open. Hearing her worried tone, Ed then said that he was fine. Most of this was not his blood. Even so, Janica was confused why he going so far. Hearing that, Ed then pondered for a while. While looking at the carriage, he couldn't help but think, how plain. You might be confused why he said that, even though the exterior was so luxurious, but compared to the people riding in it, the carriage could only be called plain. Golden King Elt. Normally, there should be more than dozens of carriages in a procession, but their arrival in this way meant that they acted quickly and quietly. Elt was Lortel's adoptive father and a fake boss who would later be betrayed by Lortel. Now shouldn't be the time for this important figure to be at the academy. He also didn't understand what they were planning. The carriage seemed to have stopped a long time ago, but why did they just get off now? But he was then surprised when he saw someone among the line of people, the third floor boss's twin maid, Sheenie, the person in charge of tableware. Sheenie was one of the orphans raised by the head maid Alice. Alice had been completely bought by Lortel, and Sheenie was supposed to be the third floor boss. But now the situation was obviously strange. Sheenie couldn't possibly betray Alice, while Alice has been bought by Lortel. But, what if Alice betrayed Lortel and sided with Elt? There is only one ending that we can predict, which is the death of Lortel. The person who will fight Fenia in the political battle in Act 3, and the one who became the protagonist's greatest ally in the battle against the Roth-Taylor family in Act 4. He is now already very difficult just to fill the role of middle boss Tote. If he was told to replace the role of Lortel, he would definitely immediately reject that crazy idea. Ed then suddenly called Janica. Hearing that, Janica then responded. Ed said he wanted to ask for her help. This was urgent, and he couldn't handle it alone. But he was still confused about how he would explain this situation to Janica. And while Ed was dizzy thinking about what excuse he would make to explain this situation to her, Janica suddenly agreed without asking why. She then asked what she needed to do. Elt at that moment received a letter telling him about Lortel, his adopted daughter who seemed to be following his orders. But in reality, she was planning to betray him and take over the Elt merchantry. Lortel was aware that he was the one who had killed her biological parents, and she persuaded the merchants and executives of the Elt merchantry to overthrow him. Moreover, the negotiation for the purchase of the Sage's Scroll was a bait to lure him to the Sylvania Academy, and make him respond late to the anomalies that occurred at the Elt merchantry headquarters. The author of the letter wrote that she had known all these facts for some reason, and she had secretly obtained a letter that could prove Lortel's conspiracy. But as usual, in this world there is no such thing as a free lunch, because she had been promised a large amount of gold by Lortel. If he did not give more gold, then she might side with Lortel. She lost her eyesight, and she almost lost her hearing due to an accident. This year might be her last year as the head maid. Depending on his decision, the situation could get more complicated or better. The contents listed on the paper attached below the letter were the names of the institutions that she secretly managed regularly. The amount of gold sent to these institutions would determine her next course of action. Alice hoped he could make a decision mercifully and wisely. The letter was the reason why Elt rushed to the academy so quickly. While pointing her sword at Lortel's neck, Alice then told her not to move. In a moment, Lord Elt would arrive at the Ophilus Hall. Alice did not expect he to have such eyes. She thought she was more cold-hearted. Lortel once told her that she would take revenge against Golden King Elt, but she apologized. In her eyes, the two of them didn't look much different. She also felt that she was just like them, and in the midst of the tense situation, suddenly there was an explosion at the entrance of the corridor. While carrying the bound Wilrain, Alvira then said that there was no way someone like Wilrain could access protection magic. And as she suspected, the real mastermind behind this incident was the head maid Alice. She then told Taylor to be careful because she saw Alice had taken someone hostage. Taking advantage of the commotion, Lortel then moved quickly to break free from Alice's distracted grasp. Alice could only be surprised to see that, when Lortel came towards them, they then worriedly asked if she was okay. In such a situation Lortel thought she should say that she was okay, and accused Alice of being the mastermind who arranged the whole situation, also invited them to defeat her as soon as possible. She should blame everything on Alice, but somehow, seeing her silence, Alvira then worriedly called her, and asked why her face looked like that. Hearing that, Lortel was confused about what was wrong with her expression, and Lortel then suddenly ran away from there just like that. They were then shocked and confused at that, then shouted to call her. In the middle of her escape, Lortel thought the Golden King Elt would come, because he couldn't trust his own subordinates. He had come here himself. The plan to dethrone the Elt was almost complete. The massive bookkeeping fraud and maximum losses will be blamed on Elt. Fortunately, now that Elt is not at headquarters, all she needs to do is contact the executives at headquarters by sending the carrier pigeon hidden in her room. After that, just find a place to hide. As long as the axis of this plan, is not caught, then everything will be fine. But Lortel suddenly reduced her running speed. She then said to herself that it was enough, and don't be disappointed. There is no one who understands her in this world. Regarding betrayal, she was also prepared for it. It was something she had experienced too many times. Lortel then stopped and leaned her body against the wall, while shedding tears. She thought, if now she felt sad, it was not appropriate. That's why, she then told herself to do what she could. It was time to run. She had to arrive at her room before Elt. Everything would be fine after she managed to send a carrier pigeon. In the middle of Lortel's escape, at the same time, on the first floor of the Ophilus Hall, Elt and his subordinates were seen already there. He then felt surprised and confused when he saw a student there. He then immediately told him to evacuate, but the student did not just obey. He told him, because of the risk of collapse, for security reasons, they prohibited everyone from entering the building. Until the faculty and staff arrived, no one was allowed to enter. The student was of course Ed. Hearing his words, Elt then asked if he received special instructions from the academy. Ed replied no, he acted based on his own decision, in a case like this. Sylvania's enforcement system is quite clear. After saying this, Ed then thought for a moment. There are 3 people to pay attention to in this scenario. First, Lortel, who wants to dethrone Elt and take revenge for her childhood, by leaving the guild master position vacant. Second, Elt, who will thwart Lortel's plan, and try hard to succeed in the plan to seize the sage's scroll. And the last, who is caught between the two, namely Alice. The main reason for the plot twist of this story, although the reason for her betrayal was not yet clear, but he knew she was with Lortel on the 5th floor, then, should he go to the 5th floor to stop her? But he then immediately rejected the idea. He knew that even if he did not intervene, she would encounter Taylor and his group as laid out in the scenario, so he would only leave it to Taylor and his group. They were trustworthy. He then recalled the incident when he confronted Taylor and his group. He had confirmed their ability, hence, his responsibility lies here, whatever Elt plans to do in the Ophelis Hall. Just preventing him from entering will guarantee that the events inside the Ophelis Hall will go in the right direction. After sighing for a moment, Ed then bowed and asked, is he the President Elt Ketchum of the Elt Merchantry? If someone with a position as high as him is visiting here, he is sure there must be a reason. He then suggested, maybe he can talk to the Academy first. Isn't it appropriate for him to get the treatment befitting his status? Hearing that, Elt said that he understood. With a threatening look directed at Ed, he then said, so you are on Lortel's side.
So, friends, this chapter comes to an end. What will happen next? We'll uncover it in the next chapter. Don't forget to rate this chapter out of 10 in the comments. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care and goodbye. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.